Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Bungleby here for MMORPG.com, and welcome back to our PlanetSide 2 class overview series. Today we're going to be taking a look at the final two classes available in PlanetSide 2, those being the Heavy Assault and the Mechanized Assault Exosuit, better known as the Maxed class, and we'll be talking about their weapons, their special abilities, and what they bring to the table. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with these classes possess the highest amount of damage to their weapons, as well as the highest armor and HP amounts, at the expense of additional maneuverability. So they are sort of slower than your typical classes, but they come equipped with a lot of extra shields, extra damage, and generally they are extremely crucial for taking out enemy vehicle emplacements, as well as handling air, etc. Now, to start off with here, we have the Heavy Assault, and the Heavy Assault comes equipped with an LMG, and their tool is an actual rocket launcher, basically bringing more firepower, allowing them to take out vehicles, etc. Now, their special ability is a sort of overshield. Every class has a shield of sorts, but that shield is a reduced shield that goes down until you get to your HP. The overshield is an additional shield, which has its own timer and allows you to basically completely stop bullets from hitting you to a certain extent. Once that shield depletes, then you go back to your regular shields. Now, this shield does regenerate over time on its own after a few seconds of not taking any damage, and you can actually unlock higher tiers of the shield to allow you to take additional damage before mitigating the shield completely. Now, there are also different shields you can unlock. Some shields, while they mitigate the damage completely, don't mitigate as much, whereas other shields actually mitigate only a portion of the damage but can do it for a much longer time. So it's really just a sort of playstyle, what you feel comfortable with and what you feel works out the best. It's sort of like a pro and a con system. Now, because each of the classes respective to their factions come equipped with LMGs, you can basically expect the same sort of physics and bullet mechanics. You know, all classes come equipped with 50 to 100 style magazine clip LMGs. In this case, the VS have lasers in their LMGs, which means that they don't have bullet drop, but they do less damage per bullet, whereas the TR does about an average amount of damage per bullet, but can fire many more bullets at a slightly reduced accuracy. The NC has the highest damage per bullet at the cost of the most recoil. These classes themselves can go quite a long time without actually reloading, and this applies both to the Heavy Assault and the Max class. You're going to be able to fire a lot of bullets at people and take out several targets before having to reload. However, your reload time is going to be much higher than other classes, so you will have to go into cover. As you can see here, I can do quite a lot of damage before having to reload. However, I am very much susceptible to additional fire during my reload sequence. Now, each of the heavies per faction also come equipped with their own special weapon. Now, the other classes in the game all have, carbines, etc., but the Heavy Assaults come equipped with their own faction-unique weapons that are only available to Heavy Assaults. So, for example, right here for the TR, we have the mini chain gun, or the Heavy's mini chain gun, and this allows me to fire tons of bullets in a general direction, taking out targets left and right without having to reload in quite a long amount of time. These all differ per faction, so while the TR have a chain gun, the NC has what's called a jackhammer, which is a large shotgun that fires multiple shots. And then the VS have what's called the Lasher, which essentially shoots out balls of plasma that explode on contact, dealing large AoE damage. Moving along, we have, of course, the Rocket Launcher, which is the tool for the Heavy Assault. And this is your, go-to weapon. This is what you're going to use whenever any enemy vehicles or air vehicles actually come into range. You're going to be firing at them with non-stop and going to be fed ammo from engineers. Now, you can see here that my rocket launcher actually locks onto targets. The typical rocket launcher that you start the game with is a dumbfire rocket launcher, which means that you cannot lock onto targets. You can just fire and forget, and hopefully it hits the target if you've aimed it correctly. Now, the rocket launchers themselves aren't really different other than their targeting mechanics. Some rocket launchers have slightly more damage or slightly less damage at the cost of being able to target someone without having to aim it constantly. But generally speaking, not one is overpowered. One rocket launcher isn't stronger than the other. The rocket launcher I'm using in this clip here can lock onto both ground and air targets at the cost of I'm not able to actually fire it dumbfire. What that means is I can't actually fire it at a target without simply locking on and getting the green square. Now, rocket launchers themselves don't do a ton of damage to vehicles. They will do a moderate amount of damage, and in fact, if a vehicle ignores you completely, you will be able to take them out in about 3 to 4 rockets. However, generally speaking, vehicles will move out of the way beforehand. It acts as a sort of deterrent most of the times. Now, moving on here, we have the Max. Now, the Max is sort of like a mini vehicle, and the reason I say that is they actually have a cooldown timer as well as a resource cost. So they cost 90 infantry points, and when you summon them, when you die, you'll have to wait a certain amount of time before you can actually cast another, or pull another one, basically. Each of the factions have their own respective style, along with their own respective infantry weapons and anti-vehicle weapons, ground vehicle, but they all use the same anti-air weapons, which are burster cannons, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So to start off with here, we're going to take a look at the special ability for the Max. In this case, it is Charge. Now, Maxes themselves are fairly slow, and Charge allows them to charge a wide distance and cover a lot of ground very quickly. It has a moderate cooldown timer, and you can actually put more certification points into it, allowing you to reduce that cooldown by quite a lot. Now, in terms of weapons, they have modular weapons on each of their arms. You can swap those out and have actually 2 different weapons on each arm respectively, and these allow you to kind of customize how you want to play your Max. Typically speaking, if you want to be an anti-infantry Max, which is what I'm doing right now, you'll want to have 2 of the respective faction-specific weapons for anti-infantry on both arms. In the case of the TR, those are called cyclers, and they basically allow you to shoot large amounts of bullets in a general direction really fast for a sustained amount of time. You'll notice here I have something like 100 bullets on each of these weapons. Each of the factions themselves have different infantry weapons, like I said before. So in the case of this Max with the cyclers, the other Max, such as the NC, is going to have shotguns, which we'll show in a little bit, and then the VS have essentially sort of carbine style laser weapons. They do sort of the least amount of damage out of all the faction specific Maxes. However, they have the best anti-vehicle weapons, which we'll talk about later in the video. So as you can see here, if a Max is left alone to do its work, it can take out pretty much anybody. They're only really susceptible to high concentrated amounts of anti-infantry fire and large explosions. So things like C4, rocket launchers, etc., those can deal a lot of damage and take out a Max very quickly. Usually speaking, you'll want an engineer to be behind you, always healing you up when possible, and you'll see that happen to me quite a lot in here. I'll be taking some damage, and then there'll be an engineer behind me actually sort of serving as a support to me, because I'm basically a walking tank at this point. Now, because I'm so large and heavy, I do make for a very large target, and oftentimes you will find that tanks and heavy infantry will try to focus you down, because Maxes, if left alone, will just do a ton of damage. As you can see here, now that I've transitioned to my NC Max, I don't actually have the same range as my TR with the cyclers. Shotguns have a very reduced amount of range, however, they can kill people in only like 1 or 2 blasts of the shotgun itself, making it much more deadly in close range, especially since it's sort of an AoE that the spread happens. You can take out multiple targets extremely quickly in quick succession. The trade-off is, of course, like I said, the range factor and the fact that they only have 7 bullets per chamber, so you have to reload a lot more often than you do with the TR Max. Those are sort of the pros and cons of each style of Max. They all come equipped with their own, special abilities or special unique weapons for certain circumstances. Now, moving along, we have the anti-air weapons, which are the burster cannons. When you first start playing the game, you only have access to one. You'll either have to purchase a secondary one, or with station cash or certification points, or just have reduced damage versus anti-air vehicles. Now, in comparison to the rocket launcher, Burster Max are going to be the go-to in terms of dealing the most sustained damage to air targets. They are essentially mobile anti-air stations, and they're extremely crucial for whenever you're either assaulting a point or defending a point and need to deal with liberators as well as personal fighters that are shooting rockets at you, etc. Typically speaking, you're not going to kill liberators on your own as one Max, but you can certainly kill small fighters on your own, as you can see right there. Usually a company or team will have multiple anti-air Maxes working together to take out targets in the same time. Now I wanted to finally show you the anti-vehicle max really quickly. As you can see here, this is the VS anti-vehicle. I only have it on one gun, unfortunately. I don't have it on both. But I wanted to show you that these typically aren't used quite often, simply for the fact that people find that the anti-vehicle guns are either really hard to shoot. It's the easiest to shoot on VS because they shoot straight, but the other ones they lob. And they also don't do a lot of damage. You'll notice I only do probably like a 1/15 of damage to a tank as I continuously fire at them. So you're not going to be doing a lot of damage with that, and for those reasons you don't really see any type of max using anti-vehicle ground vehicles. But anyways, guys, that has been my overview of the classes Heavy Assault and Max in PlanetSide 2. I hope you guys have enjoyed this series, and I'll see you guys next time. Spunkify out. Later, guys.